The soft glow of the night light cast eerie shadows across the nursery as I sat by my son Ethan's crib, watching his tiny chest rise and fall with each shallow breath. At just 6 months old, Ethan had been diagnosed with an unexplained paralysis that left his legs motionless, a cruel twist of fate that had shattered our world and left us grasping for answers in a sea of uncertainty. I reached out to stroke Ethan's cheek, my fingers trembling as they brushed against his soft skin. The weight of helplessness pressed down on me, threatening to crush what little hope I had left. How had we ended up here? Just a few short months ago, we were celebrating Ethan's birth, our hearts overflowing with joy and dreams for his future. Now, those dreams lay in ruins, replaced by an endless parade of doctors, treatments, and sleepless nights. My husband James stood in the doorway, his face a mask of worry and exhaustion. Dark circles ringed his eyes, a testament to the countless hours he'd spent researching Ethan's condition, desperately seeking any glimmer of hope. "Any change?" he asked softly, though we both knew the answer. I shook my head, fighting back the tears that seemed to be my constant companion these days. "Nothing," I whispered, my voice cracking. "He's just so still." James crossed the room and wrapped his arms around me, his embrace a lifeline in the storm of emotions threatening to pull me under. We stood there in silence, watching our son sleep, each lost in our own thoughts and fears. As the night wore on, I found myself drifting into memories of happier times. I remembered the day we brought Ethan home from the hospital, how tiny and perfect he had seemed. I recalled the first time he smiled, the sound of his laughter, the way his eyes lit up when he saw us. Those memories now felt like relics from another life, one that seemed impossibly far away. Our golden retriever puppy, Charlie, padded into the room, his nails clicking softly on the hardwood floor. From the day we brought Ethan home, Charlie had been his constant companion, rarely leaving his side. There was something different about Charlie's behavior tonight, though. His eyes were fixed on Ethan, his body tense with an energy I couldn't quite place. I watched as Charlie approached the crib, his tail wagging slowly. He stood on his hind legs, front paws resting on the crib's edge, and let out a soft whimper. It was as if he was trying to tell us something, to draw our attention to Ethan. "What is it, boy?" James asked, moving closer to the crib. Charlie's whimper grew more insistent, his eyes darting between us and Ethan, and then I saw it. The faintest twitch of Ethan's fingers. My heart leapt into my throat, a surge of adrenaline coursing through my body. "James!" I gasped, grabbing his arm so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Did you see that?" We both leaned in, hardly daring to breathe. For a moment, everything was still, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Then, ever so slightly, Ethan's fingers curled and uncurled. It was a tiny movement, but to us, it was earth-shattering. Charlie let out an excited bark, his tail wagging furiously now. He nudged the crib bars with his nose, eyes never leaving Ethan. It was as if he knew something extraordinary was happening, something we'd been praying for but never truly believed possible. Tears streamed down my face as I watched Ethan's hand lift slightly, reaching towards Charlie. Our brave, loyal puppy had somehow done what months of medical treatment couldn't. He'd awakened something in our son. This is impossible," James whispered, his voice thick with emotion. But we both knew what we were seeing. Against all odds, against everything the doctors had told us, Ethan was moving. The next few moments were a blur of tears, laughter, and disbelief. We watched in awe as Ethan's legs twitched beneath the blanket, a movement so slight, yet so monumental it took our breath away. Charlie barked again, his excitement palpable, as if cheering Ethan on. As the night wore on, Ethan's movements grew stronger. His eyes fluttered open, focusing on Charlie with a clarity we hadn't seen in months. When Ethan's tiny hand finally made contact with Charlie's fur, I felt something inside me shift. For the first time since Ethan's diagnosis, I felt hope. Real, tangible hope. But our journey was far from over. The days that followed were a roller coaster of emotions, each small victory followed by setbacks that threatened to plunge us back into despair. We clung to the memory of that miraculous night, using it as a beacon to guide us through the darkness. Ethan's progress was painfully slow. There were days when he seemed to regress, his limbs once again lying still and unresponsive. During these times, Charlie never left his side, as if he understood the gravity of the situation. He would lie next to Ethan's crib, his eyes never leaving the baby, occasionally letting out a soft whine as if encouraging Ethan to keep fighting. We took Ethan to countless doctors, each one more baffled than the last by his condition and the sudden signs of improvement. Some suggested it was a fluke, a random firing of neurons that didn't signify any real change. Others hinted at the possibility of a misdiagnosis, though none could explain the months of paralysis followed by this sudden change. Through it all, Charlie remained a constant presence, a furry guardian angel watching over Ethan. There were moments when I caught myself wondering if I had imagined that first night, if the stress and exhaustion had caused me to see something that wasn't really there. But then I would look at Charlie, at the unwavering devotion in his eyes, and I knew it had been real. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, ever so slowly, Ethan began to show more consistent signs of improvement. It started with his hands, more deliberate movements, grasping at toys, reaching for us. Then came the day when we noticed his toes wiggling beneath his blanket, a sight that reduced us both to tears of joy. Charlie seemed to sense every milestone, his excitement growing with each new achievement. He would bark and wag his tail furiously whenever Ethan made a new movement, as if celebrating alongside us. It was as though he understood the magnitude of what was happening, his presence a constant reminder that sometimes the most powerful medicine is love. But our path was not without its obstacles. There were still nights when I would wake in a cold sweat, terrified that Ethan's progress had all been a dream. I would rush to his crib, heart pounding, only to find Charlie already there, standing guard. The sight of them together, Ethan peacefully sleeping and Charlie watching over him, never failed to calm my fears. As Ethan's mobility increased, so did the challenges we faced. Physical therapy became a daily routine, each session a battle against the lingering effects of the paralysis. There were days when Ethan would cry in frustration, his little face red with effort as he struggled to make his body obey his commands. On these days, Charlie would nudge Ethan gently with his nose, offering comfort and encouragement in a way that no human could. The first time Ethan managed to roll over on his own, we celebrated as if he had won an Olympic medal. James and I hugged each other, tears streaming down our faces, while Charlie pranced around the room, barking joyfully. It was a small step, but to us, it was a giant leap towards the future we had once thought lost. Months passed, and Ethan's progress continued to astound everyone around him. The little boy who once lay motionless now sat up on his own, his eyes bright with curiosity as he explored the world around him. Charlie was always by his side, a patient playmate and protector. The day Ethan first crawled is etched in my memory forever. We were in the living room, Ethan on his playmat with Charlie lying nearby. A toy had rolled just out of Ethan's reach, and we watched in amazement as he rocked back and forth, determination written across his face. Then, with a burst of effort, he propelled himself forward, his little hands and knees working in unison. James and I held our breath, hardly daring to believe what we were seeing. Charlie, sensing the importance of the moment, let out a soft bark of encouragement, and then, miracle of miracles, Ethan was moving across the floor, slowly but surely making his way towards the toy. I couldn't hold back the sob that escaped me, a sound of pure joy and disbelief. James wrapped his arms around me, his own tears falling freely. We watched as Ethan reached the toy, his face lighting up with triumph. Charlie bounded over, tail wagging furiously, and gently nuzzled Ethan's cheek as if to say, "Well done, little one." From that day on, there was no stopping Ethan. He crawled everywhere, exploring every nook and cranny of our home, with Charlie always close behind. We baby-proofed the house with renewed vigor, marveling at the fact that we now needed to worry about such ordinary parental concerns. As Ethan grew stronger, so did our bond as a family. The dark days of fear and uncertainty began to fade, replaced by a deep appreciation for every moment we shared together. We learned to celebrate the small victories, to find joy in the simplest of things. And through it all, Charlie remained our steadfast companion, a living reminder of the miracle we had witnessed. The day Ethan took his first steps was nothing short of magical. We were in the backyard enjoying a warm summer afternoon. Ethan was standing, holding onto a chair for support, something he had only recently mastered. Charlie was nearby, as always, watching Ethan with that mix of love and protectiveness that had become so familiar. Suddenly, Charlie let out a soft bark and moved a few steps away from Ethan. We watched in amazement as Ethan's face scrunched up in concentration. He looked at Charlie, then at the space between them, and something seemed to click in his mind. With a determination that took our breath away, Ethan let go of the chair. For a heart-stopping moment, he swayed, and I felt James tense beside me, ready to rush forward. But then Ethan steadied himself and, with a look of pure focus, took one shaky step towards Charlie. Time seemed to stand still as we watched our son, the boy who had once been paralyzed, take his first independent steps. One step became two, then three, each one stronger than the last. Charlie stood perfectly still, tail wagging gently, as if encouraging Ethan to keep going. When Ethan finally reached Charlie collapsing against the dog's soft fur with a giggle of triumph, I felt something inside me break and heal all at once. The tears that fell from my eyes were not of sorrow or fear, but of pure, unadulterated joy. James and I rushed to Ethan, scooping him up in our arms and covering him with kisses. Charlie danced around us, barking happily, his excitement matching our own. In that moment, I knew without a doubt that we had witnessed a true miracle, not just Ethan's recovery, but the incredible bond between a boy and his dog that had made it all possible. As I watch Ethan now running across the living room with Charlie at his heels, their laughter filling the air, I'm reminded of how far we've come. I think of the countless nights we spent by Ethan's crib, praying for a miracle we weren't sure would ever come. I remember the darkness that once threatened to consume us, the fear that had become our constant companion. But it did come, our miracle. It came in the form of a golden retriever puppy with a heart as big as his paws. Charlie didn't just save Ethan, he saved our family. He showed us that love can triumph over the impossible, that miracles can happen when you least expect them. Ethan's story is a testament to the extraordinary bond between a child and his dog. It's a reminder that sometimes heroes come with four legs and a wagging tail, and it's proof that in the darkest of times, when all seems lost, hope can arrive in the most unexpected forms. You just have to be willing to believe in miracles. As I look at my family, James, Ethan, and Charlie, I feel a sense of gratitude so profound it brings tears to my eyes. We've been through the valley of shadows and emerged into the light, stronger and more united than ever before. And while I know that life will always have its challenges, I face the future with hope and confidence, knowing that together we can overcome anything. Ethan's journey has taught us the power of perseverance, the strength of love, and the incredible resilience of the human spirit. But perhaps most importantly, it has shown us that miracles do happen. Sometimes they just need a little help from a four-legged friend. As night falls and I tuck Ethan into bed, Charlie settling into his usual spot next to the crib, I whisper a quiet thank you to whatever force brought this extraordinary dog into our lives. And as I close the nursery door, leaving my two miracles to sleep peacefully, I carry with me the knowledge that love in all its forms truly can conquer all.